Hello, my name is Mary, and I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. I was molested from the time I was 7, and then I began being raped when I was 9. My mom met and married this guy, and it almost started immediately. He just started exposing himself to me and then making me touch him and different things, and it just went on from there. There were times when my stepdad would do things to get me alone. He beat my mom up and put her in bed, and then woke me up in the middle of the night to go to Rogersville with him. And I wanted my younger brothers and sisters to go, but he just started yelling and cursing and said they weren't going. And we went to Rogersville, and he went in a house, stayed in there for a long time. Then on the way back home to Bulls Gap, he dragged me out of the car and raped me on the side of the road. And every time a car would pass, he would push my head down so nobody would know that I was there. I felt dirty. I felt all alone. And I felt very ugly. It just always felt ugly because things were happening to me that I didn't think should be happening. And I didn't have anybody to turn to. By the time I was 12, I was pregnant. And then the people in the neighborhood turned against me because I was the dirty, nasty little girl. So I went pretty wild, went very promiscuous at the time, and I thought if I could get to the men before they could get to me, then that would be better. That would make me feel better, but all it did was make me feel worse. There was a time when I couldn't stand for people to touch me. I couldn't even stand for people to stand close to me. And well, actually, when I was in college, I had a lot of fights because people stood next to me. And I just couldn't handle it. I had this bubble built around me. And when somebody stood close to me, it was just, they just took my breath. They were sucking the air out of the room. So I got into fights because I couldn't explain at the time why I couldn't stand them being close to me. I couldn't explain why I got so angry when they got close to me. A lot of things are going on the inside that people can't see, because for a long time people thought I really had it together because I wore a mask. I looked like I had it together when I didn't actually have it together. I was coming apart at the seams and nobody knew. There wasn't anybody that recognized the pain or the mask that I was wearing to know that she's really in trouble. And I thought of all kinds of things that I could do to end my pain, but the more I thought about it, the more pain it would cause, and I was having enough pain and I didn't want to cause any more. For a long time, I felt like I was nasty and dirty, that I would be rejected because of the things that had been done to me. And I realized as I went further along in my healing, that it was all lies, that was not how God viewed me, that I didn't have any control over the things that happened to me. It was not my decision. It was somebody else's decision. I had no say in it at all. It was totally against my will. My healing began when I rededicated my life to the Lord. I went to I might as well tell the whole story. I went to Freedom Hall thinking I was going to see men with big muscles and little bikinis because it was a bodybuilding exposition, and what I saw were men preaching Jesus, and the draw was so strong I don't even remember getting out of my seat and walking up to the front. And when I realized where I was, the tears were just flowing. And it was washing all that hurt and that pain and that anger, just washing that out. But the healing wasn't immediate, it was a process. It was years before I was even able to tell my story. And the first time I tried to tell it, it was, well, I don't think they understood what I said, but they knew it was some pain coming through. And as I found people that loved me enough to listen to my story and not think that I was dirty and nasty, and still associated with me and loved me in spite of what I'd been through, then that was when my healing really began, when I started being able to share my story without blubbering. Because when you think of all that pain, it's worth blubbering over. But as the Lord has healed me and continues to heal me, it gets easier and easier to tell my story, because I want to see other people set free the way the Lord has set me free. But freedom has only come through Him, and the support I get from celebrating freedom. I now have the victory over sexual abuse. I have the victory over the shame. I have the victory over the ridicule that came from that shame. I am learning to think of myself as Jesus does, that I am worthy. I am worthy because Jesus died and made me worthy. He shed His blood to make me worthy. And there are other people that think that they are not worthy, but they are worthy, because the same blood that Jesus shed for me, He shed for them to make them worthy. There is nobody that can be so low, that can be so beat down, that Jesus cannot help them. There is always help in Jesus. Jesus is the only way to freedom. Without Jesus, there is no freedom.